This is the Inquisitive Minds Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Inquisitive Minds Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Smith. With me today, we have a very special episode. We have Corporal Dan Brady. He hails from the muddy banks of Lake Erie in northwestern PA. If you're a fan of dark comedy, then come to listen to Dan's dark yet humorous take on the demons he battles with. He regales the crowd with stories and dark observations from his life, and he is always heavy with the white trash undertones. Dan served in the United States Marine Corps from 2006 until 2015. He was stationed at Camp Pendleton for the majority of his service and deployed in support of OIF, OEF, and the 11th MEU. Welcome to the podcast, Dan.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you for having me.
My other guest with me, he was born to a black American father who was a 27-year Army veteran and a German mother. Jermaine has lived in the U.S. since the age of 2 and became a citizen at the age of 8. A 30-plus year resident of Wheeling, West Virginia, Jermaine is a 6-year veteran of the U.S. National Guard as a military police officer. Jermaine earned his bachelor's in criminal justice and has worked with juveniles and kids in crisis, and is a case management counselor for 13 years with the Youth Services System. Jermaine spends his spare time helping to plan and promote events in the northern panhandle of West Virginia with Exit Zero Entertainment. Jermaine Lucious, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
How are you guys doing today?
Doing all right.
Not
How
too
are
bad.
I'm doing as well as can be. Can I ask you to speak into the mic?
Yep.
It doesn't pick up the outside sounds. Today we have a little bit different of an episode. We're going to discuss veteran suicide. It's an ongoing problem regarding the high rate of suicide among U.S. military veterans in comparison to the general civilian public. First off, what are your opening thoughts, gentlemen?
It's terrible. Every month, every 2 months, I open up my Facebook and there's a new face. As we'll discuss, I've lost someone very close to me. This is a big problem, and no one seems to be able to put their finger on what's wrong.
Jermaine?
Yeah, I've heard about it a lot. Luckily, I haven't served with anybody that I know of that has committed suicide. But researching over the last week, it made me understand more so my feelings when I was in the military. And some of the things my father did after he got out of the military that helped him cope.
And you said your father was a 27-year veteran?
27 years.
And I'm sure that shaped your views?
A good bit. And he spent a little bit over 2 years in Vietnam. So seeing what he did to kind of relive his military years after he got out kind of helped me shape the issues that veterans have when they get out.
Okay. Right before we get in deeper, I'm going to say, not just to you two gentlemen, but to everybody who served, thank you for your service. I want to put that out there respectfully before any of this started. But more than 78,000 veterans died by suicide between 2005 and 2017. According to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, veteran suicide's death rose from 5,787 in 2005 to 6,139 in 2017. In the active military, the National Guard, with a suicide rate of 30.6 per 100,000, has the highest rate of any branch, according to the most recent Department of Defense annual suicide report. The overall rate among all active military components was 24.8. This is occurring against a backdrop of rising suicides among all Americans. And it's not just I'm focusing on veteran suicide today, but it's a problem for anybody. I want you to know, if you're listening, there's help out there. There's going to be some phone numbers you can see. I also put some in the episode description. And, I'm going to be honest, I'd much rather hear your problems than go to your funeral. I don't care if I don't know you. You can reach out to me at any point. Veteran suicide has affected a lot of people. It's affected you very seriously. You've had a lot of friends go. I'm trying to find Navy Corpsman, HM3 Adrian Casas. He served 2 tours in Afghanistan, and on March 27, 2017, he sadly took his own life. He's survived by his fiancée, Rosie Bishop, his mother, and his brother. And the problem is, like I said on Facebook, he's not an anomaly.
No.
Dan, would you like to talk a little bit more about Adrian, because you knew him on a personal level?
Adrian was my brother. Adrian, he was that strong person you always went to. He was a clown. He was an ass, but he was my clown and my ass. And just I was close to him for, my deployment in Afghanistan. And then from there out, various points of my life where I needed help, he was there. And the date was March 23rd.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So actually, I didn't know about it till a day later.
Okay.
March 24th, my ex-wife, she pulled me aside after I got home from an internship at a plastics factory for maintenance that I was going to school for. And she said, you need to sit down. And I said, no, I have to go to the bathroom. No, you need to sit down. Well, this can wait. She's like, no, Adrian killed himself last night. And I still hear those words every day. Because at first it's this feeling of, what did I do wrong? What could I have done? And there's nothing. And the way I try to explain this to people is that your grandmother can die of cancer, but you never say, oh, what could I have done to have prevented that?
Yes.
And it's just... It's this life, all of a sudden, this person that you could call, that you should have called, that you're just trying to play through like, oh, I talked to Adrian a month ago and he's doing fine, like what happened? And it's just all this, all these emotions and everything, and it's just, it comes to a head. And
from what I can gather, a lot of times people commit suicide to relieve the pain or ease the pain they're going through. And what they don't realize, it's not easing the pain, it's just passing it on to other people. I want to read an excerpt from an article called How Many People Are Affected by One Suicide. Just a short paragraph. For decades, researchers asserted that 6 people were greatly affected by each suicide death. This statistic can be traced back to the pioneering suicidologist Edwin Schneidman. In the early 70s, he based this figure on the average size of an immediate family. The figure was never scientifically tested, but he persisted as the go-to number nonetheless, which immediately out of the box is nonsense, and we will get to that right here. The number hasn't resonated with some researchers. They felt it underestimated the true burden of suicide grief, and now current research confirms their thoughts. 2019 studies indicate that far more than 6 people were affected by suicide, by a single suicide. Julie Searle from the University of Kentucky and her team of researchers have found that up to 135 people are affected to some degree by every person lost to suicide. Now, that's not necessarily a solid number, but it's vast and it's much larger than we had originally thought. It's just, it's so sad. The problem is we don't necessarily know what everybody's going through, and as much as we try, and especially on this podcast, we want to express mental health is very important. As much as we try, it's still a lot of, I don't want to say masculinity, but I think that might be the wrong word, like machismo. You hold your feelings in, you bury them deep, and that's damaging in the long run.
It's not wanting to burden people with your issues. I think that's a big deal of it. I don't know how you guys feel, but I believe a lot of it is the feeling that you're burdening somebody who has a life and has their own problems, and you're dumping your stuff on them.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I mean, I've dealt with depression post-military, and just not being able to explain to somebody how that feels. the feeling of emptiness, of no motivation. You know, you should have motivation. Last time I dealt with depression, the sky was gray. Like I could physically, my sight was changed. I was outside on a sunny day and it looked gray. And it's hard to tell that to somebody, and because to me it sounds crazy. To me it sounds silly, like saying it out loud, even when I'm going through it. And knowing how it sounds to yourself and trying to convey that to somebody else, and knowing they're going to think this is silly, is also pretty scary as well.
I've never served, but from what I understand, it's very structured. You got a purpose. You know what you're supposed to do, and then one day, we've discussed this before, Dan. You give your life to this, and then one day, move aside. We need more people to come through. It's over. You lose your purpose. You don't necessarily lose your brothers, but you're not with your core family every day. It can be disparaging.
You're up here in terms of like the country respects you and all this stuff, and then the next minute you're just Dan Brady, who is on his way back to Pennsylvania. It's one moment you're this guy who's respected by everybody in your unit, and next you're just,
Just being part of a unit. I saw a TED Talk by Sebastian Junger, who was a field reporter for 20 years in war zones. And he talked about the culture, the tribal culture that gets formed inside of units, this brotherhood that today I still say that people I serve with are the best people I've ever been around. Like basic training, my unit were just the most quality people. And I don't know if it's because of the environment we were in or the shared experiences, but I've worked in a few different places, and I've never dealt with people of that such quality, high quality. I remember before I joined, I was playing college football freshman year, and thinking to myself, man, half of these guys are douchebags. Like, they were nice to me. They were cool with me. But these are scumbag guys.
Yeah.
How they talk about other people, how they talk about women. Like, I'm not like these people at all. But you get the basic training, and I'm around like-minded people. We all have different views and everything, but we're there for one purpose, working together. And you just form this feeling, like every month of drill.
Not necessarily a hive mind, but almost to that, because you're all doing the same
like a brotherhood,
things.
yeah. Like every time I'd go to a training or a drill, I'd get in my car and I'd be excited because like, oh, who's new? I want to catch up with everybody. It was my fraternity, and I enjoyed being around those people.
Now, you said you were in the U.S. National Guard. From what I understand, they have a lower number of enlisted men or enlisted people, but the higher rate of suicide?
Yeah, by 8%, roughly.
By 8%?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, well, like you said, the tribe mentality. So a lot of these guys come back from a deployment, and they don't go back on base. They go back home. And I was thinking about this week, and I thought to myself, how many troops do we still have in Iraq?
I'm not sure exactly. Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't look it up. How many
Okay.
troops do we still have in Afghanistan?
I have no idea.
No, I don't know. Do we have troops in Syria? Do you know? I mean,
I don't know the exact numbers, but I do
think
know
we
there
do.
are. Yeah.
And these guys are fighting, and they're coming back to a world that doesn't even know they're fighting right now.
Well, growing up, when you would see things on TV about Vietnam or about World War II, it was a countrywide effort. Not just support the troops, but people changed their jobs, people sacrificed, and all support these guys. They held parades, and now it's been a conflict for about 20 years over there that people don't even think about consciously. It's just in the back of your mind.
I follow the news. I follow politics. I can't tell you if we're still in Iraq. I didn't look it up because I was like, I'm embarrassed for myself.
I know there's still troops in Afghanistan. I think I saw something come across my Facebook feed the other day. Army specialist died in an attack on an outpost.
That's the thing. People are dying, and it's just being swept under the rug because we don't even think about it. And honestly, I feel like the American public is desensitized because when you say a soldier died, it's a soldier. It's a blank soldier. But when you put a name and a face to it, it's a media
blurb,
story.
So it's another story on the news feed along with every other story going on right now.
And it's a hard adjustment coming back, like you said, with no purpose. I had a friend, when he came back from deployment, he had got a string of speeding tickets. And I finally asked him, I said, why do you keep getting so many speeding tickets? He said, I'm used to driving as fast as the guy in front of me in the middle of the desert. I said, that's fair enough.
It's also a lot of people get kind of hooked on the adrenaline of combat and stuff like that. Like, you'll see cases when guys come straight back from combat deployments, they'll buy crotch rockets and then splatter themselves going down the highway at 125 miles per hour. It's because you get used to, like, every day having this, amount of adrenaline, and then that's gone.
And we're talking about young people here, too, 17 to 18 years old. And there's a debate, we burden these young kids with college debt. But what does a war zone do to an 18-year-old kid or an 19-year-old kid?
I was 20 in Iraq.
Yeah, and that's lifelong as well.
And think about yourself now. Think about, 19, 20-year-old self. I know I was a complete idiot. I know we all did a lot of dumb stuff. And, you're training these guys. You're giving them structure. But then there's a lack of aftercare. It seems to be the problem. Veteran suicide has affected me personally as well. Lance Corporal Michael Kimmel, he was a father, he was a son, he was an uncle, a nephew, and a brother. He was actually my brother. And on February 2nd, 2019, he took his own life. Now, I know I wasn't the best brother, but it still hurts. I got 6 brothers and 3 sisters. I don't talk to them all the time, but I know, unfortunately, when I get a message early in the morning, something's happened. The first one was when our father died. The second one was when he died. I don't want to romanticize suicide, though. And this might not come across as a popular opinion, but suicide is a very selfish act.
Yes.
And people don't talk about that. When you mention someone killed themselves, a lot of times they start treating him like a hero. Not necessarily he died like a hero, but, oh, he was such a great man. He did this, he did that. That's fine. But when you have children, when you have a family, and you take on all that responsibility and then you just check out, that's a very selfish thing. And I remember finding out the news. Of course, I was tore up, but I was also incredibly angry. Dan, I know you've dealt with some of this anger as well.
Adrian's hurt stopped, but mine hasn't.
Yeah.
And I feel it every day. And he had the... in his suicide note, he wanted to make sure I'm okay. The best way to make sure I'm okay is keep yourself alive, And every day I struggle with this hate and I struggle with this love for him every day. And it's suicide is selfish. It is solving your own problems, but it's creating problems for everybody else who ever loved you. It's created this void in their heart and their mental capacity. It changes them. Adrian's suicide changed me in a way I could never have prepared for, ever.
We see an uptick in veteran suicides around 2007. You have a theory on that, the rise of social media.
I believe that the rise of the suicide rate goes hand in hand with the rise of social media, because I don't know if you guys have ever been to that point where you wanted everything to end.
Yes. Yes, I can honestly say I have.
But when you're there, you just want to be loved. You want to be accepted. And what's the best way to get that?
Social media.
Rest in peace, Josh. Till Valhalla, brother. #20 till none. And also, if you are a veteran listening to this, don't use Until Valhalla. Okay, that is not Valhalla at all. Okay, that is for people who die in battle, not the battle of yourself. I know suicide is this horrible, horrible thing, but growing up, do you remember any suicides occurring in your life?
No.
I remember a couple, but they weren't.
It was
anything
treated with
big.
shame. It wasn't treated with this sadness that we have now, like, oh, I just wish how you were hurting. No, it's treated now like these people die in combat, and it's kind of instant gratification. Like, I know if I take my life right now, Johnny will share a status that will get over 300 likes on it and multiple comments, and we never saw this coming.
Just to put this in perspective, and I'm not trying to bring some levity, but I'm trying to slow it down a little bit so we don't lose ourselves. Dan said if he died, I would put a status up. If you're unaware, to the listeners, Dan is absolutely one of my best friends in the world, and I would take his body out of the casket and beat the shit out of it, especially after this episode. That's just
No, I've experienced that hurt, and I could never put it on anybody else. That is, like you said, it's incredibly selfish. Like, did you want me to talk about Adrian's suicide?
Yes, you go ahead.
Just for everybody listening, this is very brutal and this is very terrible. But this also kind of brought clarity to me because for the first week after Adrian's suicide, I struggled with I should have called.
Do you know what else it is, Dan? It's truthful, and that's more important than anything.
I struggled with this is my fault. I did this because I didn't call him in over a month. But his fiance told me how he took his own life. And that was he sat in the bathtub. He locked the door. He cut his wrists and he cut his throat. His fiance came home right before he was able to bleed out fully.
Oh.
So she realized what was happening. So I don't know how, but she beat down the bathroom door. He got out of the bathtub, punched her in the face, knocked her to the ground.
Oh, my Lord.
Because she was fighting with him. And then as he stood over top of her, he ripped out his jugular.
Oh, my God.
There is nothing I could have said that could have prevented that. That provided clarity to me that there is nothing I could have done to prevent that. But Rosie has to live with that now.
Yes.
Rosie is one of the nicest people I know.
We heard all that, and it was brutal. She went through it and witnessed it.
She's still struggling. And Rosie, if you're listening to this, I love you very much. But she is incredibly strong. The fact that she took this on the chin and she's still alive is absolutely outstanding. But this goes back to the whole selfish part. Adrian gave her those memories on the way out the door. Rosie was detained by the cops for 4 hours because they thought she killed him.
Oh, my.
That's how brutal the scene was when they approached. He gave his cat PTSD. Rosie can't take a bath now without the cat freaking out.
You know, that's something I've never thought about either is, I don't want to say they're less significant because people have in my head, my cat's and my kid. No, they're not. They're your pet. But I never thought about giving your pet PTSD, which is also unfortunate.
Could have been in some legal issues.
Yeah.
Like,
when my wife died, I was questioned for a little bit. They thought I had a role in it, and I understand how traumatic that is. Rosie, I can understand some of your pain. I witnessed my wife die in my arms, and it is traumatic, let alone so violently. I don't know you, but you have all my love, and I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. And it dawned on me while you were saying that, Dan, that people might not be watching. They may be listening. So I want to give out the Veterans Crisis Line. The military crisis line is 1-800-273-8255, and you press 1. The military crisis line, online chat, and text messaging service are free to all service members, including members of the National Guard and Reserve and veterans. And even if you are not registered with the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs or enrolled in the VA healthcare, hundreds of men and women in the military call us every day. And we're trying to get people back on track there.
I don't know about you, but I've used those numbers. I have not only used it for myself, but since Adrian's passing, I have studied myself in warning signs on Facebook groups, stuff like that, or people reach out like, hey, if you actually are concerned about somebody, you call that number, press 1, and they will get a, when police come out to your house to check on you.
Welfare
check. They just need the number. They just need to know what branch of service, and they will find them. Well, then they will get back to you.
Well, since we have someone that has used the line, How would you rate your overall experience with this? Because I know a lot of people are feared of being ridiculed. Were they respectful?
Oh my God! When I left my ex, I called, and I was having a panic attack on the phone, and the lady was crying with me, and she was telling me it's going to be okay. It's going to be this. Here's this. Here's this. Remember this. Like a 10 out of 10. I wish everybody knew about this number. It's great, even if you just need somebody to talk to. I've done that too, and you necessarily won't get someone who understands exactly what you're going through, but they field these calls every day.
Okay.
And these people are well trained in it. They are very polite. They are very respectful, and you will not feel ashamed for reaching out to them at all.
I think it's important for us to normalize getting help.
Yeah.
You know, I talk a lot of trash on social media, but I do make it well known that I see a therapist once a month.
Okay.
And
there's absolutely nothing wrong.
Nothing wrong with that. I dig my therapist.
We have to end the stigma of mental health being your fault. First off, I read somewhere that 25% of men are walking around with undiagnosed mental health issues because they won't talk to somebody, and the men that are diagnosed, it raises up to 40%. My biggest message from this episode, I want you to know you are not alone. You're not by yourself. Even though it's your own journey and struggle, we all have very similar struggles. And if you're not a veteran or a service member, call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255 or TTY 1-800-799-4889. It's a hotline. It's 24 hours. It's toll-free suicide prevention service available at anyone in a suicidal crisis. You'll be routed to the closest possible crisis center in your area, and your call, as always, is free and confidential.
I also just want to say that number is the same as the crisis number. It's run by the same people, but you press 1 if you're a veteran, and you'll get people that are specialized in that. Because I know I have had friends who've called in, and they're like, oh, you gave me the wrong number. No, just press 1.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, I have stayed up on the phone for 7 hours just talking to people. Like, just... Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to feel like you're being selfish if you reach out. If you say, hey, I'm this. Like, I try to be as open about my mental health on social media, especially a lot of new things coming from my horrible marriage and stuff like that. Like, I just want to show people that there is nothing to be embarrassed about to cry. There is nothing embarrassed about saying, hey, Johnny, I need you to talk to me for a little bit. There is nothing wrong with asking for a hug.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And
I have lost a lot of sleep staying up on the phone with people that have had issues, whether it be suicide or mental health issues or what have you, and I'd much rather do that than mourn.
And I gotta say, I'm glad that the culture is changing, because when I served, I don't even think you could be on antidepressants in the military.
Oh, no.
I don't think that was a thing. Like, I knew I had a feeling, because I had dealt with anxiety as a kid.
When I got out, it was heavily regulated.
Yeah.
Like, they just gave you, like, the low-end stuff. Like, I got, like, 2.5 milligrams of Paxil and stuff like that.
But I was under the impression, because I got in, 2008, that if I ever had another anxiety, like, you know, if I ever, like, got depressed or anxiety, I'd be risking my career back in 2005, 2006. That was the mentality I had back then. Unfortunately, I didn't have to. I wasn't dealing with anything in those 6 years. But in the back of my mind, the idea was, if I have a breakdown, they're just gonna let me go.
That's unfortunate to feel like that too.
It's gotten better. The culture has finally shifted to we can't let our boys, or even we talked about men a lot, but women too are affected by this. And the culture has started to change. When I was on my way out the door in 2015, you know, even now, like in Erie, our mental health facility through the VA is #1 in the country.
Oh.
Like the stuff they do for veterans, it's finally becoming more welcoming for us. There's finally this kind of like, it's okay to cry, it's okay to be upset.
And the thing about that is it took so long to get this realization, but they knew about it. They didn't call it PTSD. They called it whatever, shell shock. You know, there was so many different terms for it coming through the years, and PTSD is the clinical term.
Well, going postal is because of undiagnosed PTSD. The term going postal comes from undiagnosed PTSD from like Vietnam and stuff like that.
So it's always been there. We just now are finally to start acknowledging it. And I know that the generic grab bag of mental illnesses are depression, anxiety, and PTSD. And I don't want to downplay those because, yeah, they're very common illnesses for us to have. I actually have all three myself. I was diagnosed last year, and that was a difficult journey for me because I remember growing up, my mother would tell me, whatever you do, don't tell the doctor you're depressed because that goes on your record. And I don't know what the fuck, they were supposed to do with that, destroy my life. I could do that by myself, But we can't downplay this. When someone says they have anxiety, it's important to respect and listen to them because it comes in different forms. Not every mental illness, even PTSD, looks the same on everybody. I also want to shout out Matt Yukin, who he reached out to me recently and said that Adrian was one of his corpsmen, and he has started a nonprofit called Help a Vet. And Help a Vet is an organization, a nonprofit organization for veterans, helping them find purpose in life through career paths to help decrease depression and in turn decrease the suicide rate. I think that's another thing we just touched on, that you get out, now there's no purpose. No guidance.
So when my dad got out, I only knew my dad post-military. He had me when he was about 44, roughly. So he'd already been 27 years in. And after I looked into this whole the tribal mentality, it kind of explained to me his actions after he got out. He did a lot of transport in the military, so he got a job at Federal Express. And then he joined as many fraternity clubs as he could, like the Elks, the Legion, the Masons, the Broad Brummels.
To get that brotherhood back?
And he then in the military, he'd run bars on base and other side jobs. So the big part of his life was the Legion and running the Legion. He was the commander of the Legion, and he spent most of his days at the Legion. And it was less for the bar, but more for having that organization, military-esque organization. And I spent so many Memorial Days and 4th of Julys with him while he was doing the pageantry, holding up flags, being part of ceremonies. Just so many small things that I realized were just him trying to hold on to that culture.
The sense of camaraderie.
Camaraderie.
Yeah.
And then also with it helped him a lot too because he had a lot of there were some things after Vietnam. He couldn't sleep very, very
some
deeply.
demons, man.
Yeah. He'd wake up every day about 5:30. He wouldn't sleep any longer than that. It was a very dark-skinned man, but he had Agent Orange on his face and on his chest. Yeah, which my mom actually still gets survivor benefits because for that.
Well, I will say, I met Jermaine roughly 2 years ago, somewhere in there. Promoter down in West Virginia with Kryn. She's the other half of Exit Zero, and he raised a good man. Not only the career path you've chosen, what you've done to help others. I've always worked with you and found that you are a man of high integrity. So whatever he did, he laid good groundwork.
Thank you.
You look like you were mulling it over. Like, let me see my integrity.
You should always question yourself.
Fair enough.
I think veterans groups or even getting that brotherhood back, I think that's one of the keys to defeating this. Because I don't work with, but I've been a part of a couple of hunting organizations that are geared towards veterans, like Wounded Heroes Hunting Camp. My good friend Matt, he's a what do they call it? Pro staffer for them. And basically his job is to set up these hunts and have veterans come out. Like I did last March, I did a snow goose hunt just outside of Philadelphia. It was 7 veterans. They paid for a dinner. They got us new camo and stuff. It was just, have a dinner with other veterans and hang out with them. They paid for our hotels. The hunt was but you can't control that stuff. Mm-hmm. Like I'm selected to do a big buck hunt in Central PA in December. My hotel's going to be paid for, like all this stuff. Like
and shout out that organization again.
Wounded Heroes Hunting Camp.
Do they have a website? Do you know?
Yes, I think it's www.woundedheroes.org. I know their Facebook page is Wounded Heroes Hunting Camp. They do accept donations. I will send you the link after we're done with this. But they do a lot. I know they just had 2 veterans up in Maine for a fall bear hunt. So, I mean, a lot of people aren't into the outdoor stuff, but it's not just about the kill. It's about everything that goes up to it, and especially if you can spend it with other veterans. Like I did fishing trips where we just talked about, like, back in 2007 on the field op I did this, or, like when I was in Afghanistan, this happened, and you finally have somebody that's like, yeah, I remember that, and that means the world to your mental health.
In comedy, I guess we can phrase it, it's not about the show, it's about the hang.
Right. 100%.
Now, Jermaine, you mentioned you had some depression. Was that an ongoing thing, or did you start developing that after you left your service?
After I left the service, I don't really think my service produced any of that.
Okay.
I dealt with some losses in my life.
Okay.
A family and friends, my death of my dad, a few other things. And I've dealt with anxiety before, when I was a child and in high school. And didn't diagnose it. It kind of went away by itself, And that's another issue with mental health is a lot of enlistees have these issues before they go in, and recruiters will either they will know about it, or recruiters will tell them a lie about it right off the back. Recruiters are very
don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah, they
just
will,
not for homosexuality.
Yeah, definitely. So I've dealt with it once or twice, but mostly from anxiety. The anxiety will lead to the depression.
Now, you said you go to a counselor once a month. Did you find that on your own, or was there a service that helped you?
I had to find that on my own. And when I was in the military, when I was a young man, I never believed in depression or anxiety.
See, that's the problem we face today. A lot of people don't believe in it.
I didn't believe it was a real thing. I thought it was something that you could just, force your way through.
Just get over it.
And then when it actually hits you, and it's a physical thing. It's not just mental. It's a physical. Yeah. It hits you physically.
I'm not making light of your situation. I remember the first time I actually got real depression. I was kind of the same way, okay, you're sad, whatever. Get over it at some point. And then when the real depression hit me, I was like, this shit is terrible. I am so sorry for anyone I ever told get over it.
This is real. I can't pull myself out of it. I can't get my mind. I can't think straight anymore.
And it looks like different things too. It's not always just moping around. Sometimes
I went for a jog and I was having a panic attack, and I was yelling to myself at 7 o'clock in the morning, trying to get my mind right, running down the street trying to jog. And thank God nobody called the cops on me or anything. I could have had an issue right there. That could have been an incident. And I must have looked like a madman,
Yeah.
And I look back at it, and even when I was doing it, I was like, "You look insane right now. You're not this guy. You have a job and you do a degree. You're a normal person, but you're running down the street right now, screaming to yourself."
I want to make the statement that having mental illness is part of being a normal person.
Yes.
Dan, now you touched on how you felt when you left the service.
Yeah.
How did you deal with those feelings? What did you do to work on things? And I guess I'm asking, describe your process on how you got from there to now, because I know you've been through quite a bit.
Well, I tried to numb everything with pills. That didn't work. Ended up ODing on those about 3 months being out of the Marine Corps.
Oh, really? I didn't know that part about you. Now, when you say OD, did you almost die? What was the situation?
All I know is I took like 9 muscle relaxers, and I woke up like that was at 8 o'clock at night. I woke up 3 p.m. the next afternoon, and my ex-wife is just like, yeah, I found you just face first on the ground, stuff like that.
Was that an attempt on your behalf?
I don't think it was a attempt on my life. It's just an attempt to numb everything.
Okay.
You know?
Is that like
And sometimes those things coincide.
the pills start in the military?
No, that was really like, because I was sober through my last 4 years
Yeah.
of my military. So when I got out, I had nothing. I really had no network set up for myself, which that's a very important thing. Bring people into your life who care about you. Johnny has touched on it, that we're really good friends. We're best friends. I lean on Johnny multiple times in a week, like, hey, I feel like this, but I didn't have that set up for me when I got out. So, like, you know, my ex went to work, and it's just like, oh, empty thing of pills here. Maybe if I take 2 of them, okay, I don't feel anything. Maybe if I take 2 more. And then that kind of led into, you know, somebody took me aside and said, hey, you should try this, which weed. That
We don't talk about drugs. You should try. I'm just messing around. I'm trying to, you know, it's a heavy topic.
Yeah.
I'm just
No.
trying to.
No, that was a big help. And then kind of like I got in with the VA, which I can't understate this enough. Yes, the VA, there are bad things about it, but so there is with every hospital. Every hospital has malpractice suits. Every hospital has people being left for dead, basically. But the VA is a service for us, and it has helped me so much. I go to therapy every 3 weeks when I remember to schedule appointments, but that's helped me a lot. And then getting more into the outdoors. I don't put myself into hunting and trapping. That's where I feel at peace at. And then April 11th, 2018, I got on stage, and that made a lot of my stuff go away.
Yeah.
Just being able to laugh and joke about it.
Stand-up is definitely another form of therapy.
Were you able to, like, did you see yourself doing stand-up before the depression?
I've always loved stand-up comedy, but I never saw myself having the balls to get up there.
So I'll tell you, after my bouts with depression, I kind of had this mentality that nobody's opinions matter. So since my last bout, I've done public speaking and broadcast and radio shows. I've been trying to stand up. I don't think I'm very good, but it's to a point where it's just like I don't care anymore about the small
Well,
things.
there's a freedom
It
in
gave me
feeling
a
like
weird
that.
freedom. Seeing the darkness gave me a weird freedom to live more open afterwards.
Something needs to be said for veterans finding creative outlets.
Give me 1 second here, guys. I'm going to take this opportunity. The show today is sponsored by Tenacious Detail, mobile detailing service out of Pittsburgh, PA. You can find them on Facebook, or you can give them a phone call at 724-498-9942. Apparently, for the Halloween month of October, they're doing spooky savings. Any deluxe service that you get, the deluxe interior, the deluxe exterior, deluxe full detail, is 15% off until the end of the month, and that actually includes their ceramic coating, which is a decent amount. You know, so guys, check them out. Their travel, they come to you.
I actually got my car detailed by Tenacious Detail, and it was very well spent money.
Okay, glad for the endorsement there. Thank you very much. Also, I want to let you guys know that for the month of October, I'm still doing this fundraiser for the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. If you check out my shirt site, my website, anywhere on the Facebook page, you'll see that there are shirts and leggings for sale that I am donating 100% of the proceeds to the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. Not trying to get anything out of this. Breast cancer is very important to me and to a lot of other people, and we're still struggling with it. We need more research. We need more cures. We also, I don't think it's looked at as important, but to me, firsthand witnessing, they provide wigs for patients when they lose their hair, and it might not seem like anything to me or you, but to give someone a wig that is going through cancer and make them, at least for the moment, feel beautiful again is a tremendous thing. And while we're here, let's just go with a good old plug. I got my Halloween shirts and leggings up on the store. Check them out. Help support the podcast. I ordered mine. They should be here this week. Check them out. They're pretty dope designs. We could always use a little support. Back to you, Dan.
I love that you pitch everything but our podcast.
Oh, that was coming at the end. You know what, guys? Here it is. Me and Dan are on a podcast together called What in the History. Check out for our upcoming episode, Cyrus the Great, with a special guest on that one as well. I'm also on a new podcast with Mr. Louis Alexander called Who Sat on the Remote, which is a very interesting concept. What we do is we use a random number generator, get a random show assigned to us, and then pick 3 random episodes, and we watch those in that order and design our own show arc and critique it in our own way. Check it out. It'll be out soon. We did the first official episode last week. I'm not sure when that'll be out. And I don't have a name or a thought or anything more than an idea, but on the drive here, I was offered a 4th co-host position. So that's that. Check me out somewhere, guys.
So I think something needs to be said for creative outlets. Like, you have a creative outlet. You seem to be doing well. I don't know you that well, but you seem to be pretty well focused. My friends that, like my buddy Tripp, who's going to be an upcoming guest.
Yes, sir.
He has painting. He has his books.
He's a musician.
And he's doing well.
I like Tripp because he is just so full of fuckery. Like, that's the best way to describe him. Tripp, what is he? He's full of fuckery and whiskey.
I tell you, I was worried when COVID hit that I was going to go into depression or anxiety because I couldn't. My 2 things are going to the gym and throwing events and planning events. That's been great outlets for me. So I decided to become like a gardener.
I want to say
my yard was it's beautiful now because
it is.
I went to YouTube and started learning how to garden and make my grass like Bob Vila out here.
I will say I worked with Jermaine on many, many shows, and he runs a great production down there.
Thank you.
Anything Exit Zero down in West Virginia, please check those guys out. Obviously, not much going on right now, but in the future, they're going to be swinging again.
But the reason I asked about the pill thing was I remember in 2004 when all my friends came back from their first deployment, they all talked about openly about using pills recreationally in Iraq because that was their only. There was no alcohol, I guess, so that was their only vice. And some of these guys were just Boy Scouts practically. And back then, people took pills like a glass of wine.
Being in Afghanistan, taking opiates is like going to Jamaica to smoke weed.
Yeah.
That's the motherland.
And I wonder how badly we saw how pills kind of morphed into the heroin problem in America.
Full-blown addictions.
Yeah. And but people don't remember. I was 21 in 2005, and people were just taking pills with beers in bars. It was nothing. And everybody thought it was safe.
Well, yeah, people didn't realize all those guys. You remember Blue Dolphins?
Yeah.
Those pills, all these pills that were going around. I think it's funny how in the culture I grew up, it was in an urban neighborhood, and I had a lot of friends that were drug dealers, and they would look down upon addicts. They smoked crack, or if they bought heroin, they're fiends or snaps or what have you. But then would party and, take pills, take perks, Molly, whatever, lean used to be bigger. And it's 2 sides of the same coin. Addiction is addiction. And it's unfortunate that it can start over there like it did for so many young people.
There's a lot of pitfalls for young enlistees.
Well, you get out, you can have a bunch of money from what I understand.
I remember 2010, 2012, bath salts were huge.
Yeah.
Spice.
K2.
Yeah. That stuff wrecked people.
Not to deter the story, I don't know if you guys can see this scar I have above my eyebrow. I was in a halfway house, bored out of my mind, finally asked the guy, okay, sell me some K2. So he sold me a stick. I go in the laundry room with a buddy. I took 3 hits and passed it to him, and I woke up in a hospital pretty much. I had landed on my face, broke my nose. They found me in a pool of blood. That shit is dangerous, guys.
Yeah, I saw it wreck service members' lives. We had a guy that was 2 hours late for formation because he was driving to formation and a helicopter flew over and he thought that was the CIA following him. So he drove around Camp Pendleton for 2 hours because he thought this helicopter was following him.
Guys, not all drugs are good. Oh, my Lord.
How about the pitfalls? I read that 1/3 of Army suicides on active duty, they had relationship issues within the last month. And another issue with the military is you can't live off base unless you're married. So you get a lot of young people, 18, 19.
Depressed in the barracks, nowhere else to go to. And if you don't get Wi-Fi, all there is to do is drink and bang barracks rats.
Yeah.
That's it.
Barracks rats are lot lizards?
Basically, yes.
Okay.
Not that I've ever partaken, but, you know.
Okay.
But you get a lot of people jumping into like marriages way too young.
Yeah.
And you get these poor kids coming from these small towns that bring in their girlfriends. And Army marriages and relationships, especially for young people, are notoriously, like it's like a running joke almost how bad they usually turn out.
Right.
Now, that leads me to my next question, gentlemen. What do you think some of the major causes for these suicides, especially veteran suicides, outside of social media? You touched on the marriages. You touched on the loss of purpose. Is there anything else that you think specifically is adding to this?
I think because we misdiagnosis. Like, I will see all the time, like, oh my God, PTSD is real. Nobody's ever said PTSD isn't real.
We're not denying it.
Not every veteran that commits suicide died because of PTSD. Yes, we have these unique mental illnesses that occur within us, but you stack on top of that mortgage, bills, a job, wife, family, kids. It's
Predatory
all
lenders.
of that. It's not just the military service that is affecting him, but everybody will write it off as, oh, he lost he lost the war at home. Like, no, he struggled to keep up with everything. And then everybody wants to blame the VA. Like, one thing I've seen a lot is 22 a day, blame the VA. What is the VA supposed to do? Be mental health Gestapo, go door to door, ask you how your mental health is? You have to go.
How is your mind today, sir?
And you also kind of realize once you're in the military that a huge portion of America's praise for the military is just lip service.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
And it's
100%.
jarring.
I wanna
see
say
how many
this.
people are like, oh, you served? I don't care.
Yeah, I always say thank you for your service because
Yeah.
I genuinely mean that.
Yeah.
I want to explain something to people. You might not support their orders or what they're doing as a whole, but the service person should be respected because even though they didn't necessarily make that ultimate sacrifice, they put themselves in the position to make that sacrifice. And I think there's a lot of quiet hate and disrespect for the troops that maybe you don't like the military and the people pulling the strings, that's fine. But the people that are in uniform and on the ground, most of them that I've come into contact to have been phenomenal humans.
Another thing is this PTSD has been stereotyped as this bad thing. Like, I love Criminal Minds. There is 5 episodes in there where the serial killers just turned out to be veterans who suffered a PTSD break. Even season 1 of Punisher on Netflix, the veteran gets fired from his job and he starts digging a pit in his backyard. It's not like that. People used to be like, hey, did you kill anyone? Now the question is, oh, do you have PTSD? Well, first off, my mental health is none of your business.
Yeah, I think both questions were always impolite.
Yeah. And it's PTSD is given as such a, I don't know about you, but I just want to feel normal.
Yeah.
And this whole, like, oh, he's got PTSD. Oh, he's probably like this. Oh, he's probably like this. That does not help.
That's part of the reason people don't talk about it because they don't want to deal with that bullshit.
Would you rather have people ask about your experiences or just let you volunteer your stories?
Yes, I think that's the easiest way is to
Let you volunteer?
If I let you in, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
You can ask Johnny. Like, if I get close to you, I will tell you what's inside my mind.
Yeah, my dad, like I never asked my dad too much about Vietnam because I figured he would volunteer the information. The things I did here were between my dad and my older brother who was a Marine. And some of them were pretty funny. I'll tell the story later, but I have this picture over my bed of my dad in Vietnam, and on the back they have their nicknames. And him and his friend, and one of his friend was named So Proud. And I was like, damn, that's a cool name. That's like in a fucking new Full Metal Jacket movie. That's a cool nickname. My dad's nickname was Poon Lou. And I was like, oh, how much fucking were you doing in Vietnam to get the nickname Poon Lou?
Yeah.
So when I'm like 12 years old, and my brother and my dad are just shooting the shit, talking about their time. I think he just got back in Somalia, and he's like, "Oh, you guys had those Kevlar helmets. Back in my day, we used to have the M1 helmets. Those things were heavy. Those things were 20 pounds.
Holy shit.
We used to have to wear them everywhere. Commissary, sleeping, going out to get a drink, getting some head." And I was like, "Whoa, wait, what?" And he just kept going, and I was like, "Wait, I'm not gonna ignore what you just said there. I'm 12 years old right here." All right, keep going. Finish your story.
Those men must have had strong necks.
But on top of what you were saying, though, I think there is a time and place to ask a veteran about his experience. But, like, I've been asked, do you have PTSD in front of other people? That's like,
rough.
Ask, not necessarily just like, hey, where'd you serve? Hey, how'd you do this? I'm sure the veteran's going to volunteer information.
Yeah.
And I know we're all curious about what goes on over there. But like I said, that stuff is in here. That stuff is personal.
Well, gentlemen, my next question for you is, what can we do outside of sharing fucking hashtags and doing fucking push-ups online?
Yeah, fuck that.
To start prevent. I got nothing against you, like if you're supporting the troops, but what the fuck is you putting out a video of you doing 22 push-ups doing for anybody? Go fuck yourself.
That raises no awareness in terms of like what we raised here today. Now, I hope people walk away from this understanding like what we go through and like what I've gone through, what you've gone through in terms of the loss of life. But I think the biggest thing is as veterans, we have to help ourselves. The only way that this can be solved is by veterans reaching out to each other and not just like going, "Oh my God, I miss him so much," stuff like that. Be honest with each other, talk to each other. If you see, like, this is the last part I'll talk about Adrian. Adrian actually wrote a note on Facebook within 30 minutes of him committing suicide. He basically said goodbye to his fiancée, Rosie. What do you think happened in that comment section?
Oh, are you okay? Are you okay?
No.
Oh.
I thought you loved me, man. What's going on? This status isn't about me.
Yeah, the dumb shit people.
Yeah. If you see somebody post something, like Adrian didn't feel feelings. Like the thought I had was, when I get done with work tomorrow, I should probably call him. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, if you see somebody reach out, if you see somebody post something that's not characteristic, hold your stupid fucking comments to yourself. Message them, call them, ask them if they're okay, because more often than not, they aren't.
Everybody's a fucking comedian, but you end up looking like a douchebag. Yeah. And I've snapped at a couple people for stupid fucking comments. Not everything's a goddamn joke.
I actually, one of the guys who left one of the comments, I'm not going to say his name, but I saw him at Adrian's funeral, and he was torn the fuck apart because of what he said.
I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I'm glad that he understood the weight of what happened. Guys, I am not, an expert in any of this. I don't feel like I have a concrete solution, but it seems like the answer to some of this shit is be human to each other. Talk to each other. Quit that shit where everything's a joke and you wanna play on stuff. That's why people don't open up. You ever think I know there's people that got to think most of my friends are shallow. No, you're just the fucking douchebag that takes everything as a joke.
Yeah.
When people need help, they're serious. Before you start joking, try and check on somebody. See how they're doing.
Another thing, too, is a lot of what I see shared on social media is like this. I hit on it earlier. I don't know what your feelings are about the VA, but we create this horrible negativity that prevents veterans from ever going. And a lot of guys that commit suicide aren't even registered. Mm-hmm. How is the VA supposed to help them if they're not going? We need to stop pushing people away from this source. Yes, it's not perfect. Yes, it does need help. If you want to help it, once a year they have town hall meetings at your local VA that you can voice opinions. Volunteer work, go talk to them. There's so much more we can do than just, like you said, share until Valhalla, brother, #22 a day.
Well, gentlemen, Jermaine, Dan, I thank you both for coming on. I hope this reaches somebody that it can help. If we help one person not commit suicide, I feel like we've been successful. This week, on Saturday, I have a stand-up show up at the Erie Movie House, actually with Dan Brady. You get a chance, check us out up there. Tickets are limited, so buy now. And the following Saturday, the 10th, I have a stand-up show at the Venango General Store in Venango, PA. So check me out there, guys. And stay tuned. Stay tuned for the next episode where we have the Stolen Stitches. Coming straight out of the local graveyards of Pittsburgh, PA, the dream team of Screams bringing their own spooky vision to the classic 10-in-1 style circus sideshow. And that's composed of Danger Dave, piano, guitar, and sideshow freak, Claudette Smimsm, I hope I'm saying that right, it's SMM, sword-swallowing demonic clown, and Kenzie, the pain-proof clown, accordion banjo, sideshow freak. They were stitched together with some thread, piano, and accordion, and resurrected with devilish little punk rock twist. Oh, my Lord. Why was that so hard to get out? Oh, guys, check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that crazy shit. Check us out on YouTube. Facebook, everywhere we're at. Check us out at the website, inquisitiveminds.com. I cannot express this enough. We are spelled differently. I appreciate everyone who has commented and shared something. It is not spelled the normal way. It is INQUIZATIVE, minds.com. And I'm also looking to potentially do some bonus episodes with some listener stories, creepypasta. If you have something that is unexplained, that you don't know what happened, that's spooky, or just a fascinating tale, please send me a message or shoot me an email at inquisitivemindspodcast@gmail.com. It's fucking spelled differently. Hey, thank you guys, and I'll see you next week.